Anything else to say about Loki? Before we move on to our next episode where I shit on Black Widow? Welcome to Sound and Fury. I'm Eric Wilfred Watson, General Commander.
General Commander.
And I'm Hugh Frank, and I just got done forging a hammer and Nidavellir, and boy, are my arms Thor.
Today we're going to talk about a movie about spiders, I think. It's called Arachnophobia.
It's called Black Widow. I'll give you a topic.
Oh shit, I'm totally unprepared.
Yeah. Black Widow was neither black nor a widow. Discuss. I think I combined Linda Richmond with Dieter.
Dr. Evil?
With Dieter. Yeah, or with Dr. Evil, yeah. Yeah, they're all Mike Myers. So yes, Black Widow was a movie.
And I watched it in the theater.
Yes.
Which was eerie and weird.
Yes. But welcome back to the theater.
I know.
We haven't been to a theater since Bill and Ted's
Right.
3.
With the pandemic, the last two movies I saw in the theater were Bill and Ted with You, whenever that came out in summer.
Yeah.
And then before that was 1917. That's not the last time I saw a movie, that was the name of the movie. It wasn't that long ago. But, yeah, it was good to be back in the theater, even though I was literally the only person in the theater.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that'll change.
It's, I believe, the best grossing pandemic-era film to date, but
Okay.
I
It
saw
was
it.
pretty gross.
Before I give my opinion, what did you think of Black Widow?
I liked it.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
I know there's been some negative commentary out there and kind of brushed that aside. I think a lot of people really wanted it to be a bigger story, but it really had to fit into a little confine. What I thought was going to be my biggest nitpick actually wasn't. One of my biggest issues with Solo, which in a different episode, is the story of how the Kessel Run was done just didn't need to be told in that much detail. I was worried that the story of what happened in Budapest was going to be overtold or done in flashback style or just gratuitously like, okay, we get it. But it was very subtle. They mentioned what happened. They were actually in Budapest, which is why it came up, so it was kind of organic.
Was a joke about the pronunciation?
And the joke about in Marvel humor style. And it was good. You get to learn a little bit more about Budapest and why those two are kind of so close, and it's tied in with that city. And it wasn't hokey and inorganic. It just fit right into the overall thing. So I was actually quite happy with that, although I was afraid that I was going to be disappointed. So.
Well, that's a pleasant surprise if you think something's going to disappoint you and it doesn't.
Right. Yeah, that's what she said.
It's all true.
I liked the movie more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to like it. So I'd give it like a solid, yay, thumbs up. I'm not going to oh my God, that was the best thing I've ever seen. And I'm probably not going to remember the movie next year, but I liked it.
Yeah.
It fit well into the canon. It didn't create whole big new things that I have to worry about or remember. It was just a fun little spy story, fun little action movie, good character development. It's like the quintessential Marvel movie. It introduces you to a character. I mean, you already know the character, but the movie introduces you to the character.
Introduces you to part of the character you didn't know about.
Yeah. There's actual dialogue, which I appreciated. My favorite parts of the movie are not when they're blowing things up and chasing things and hitting things and punching things. My favorite parts of the movie are just
not a Michael Bay film.
My favorite parts of the movie are just the quiet little dialogue pieces, like the conversation in the bedroom where she's talking to her not exactly father.
Yeah.
I liked those pieces a lot. I thought it was really well written. As far as that is concerned, I got a little bit bored with the ending climax, punch people in the face on the magic flying city thing, but it was well executed, and I am glad that I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Avengers being on top of things that are slowly falling to the ground is just kind of a little bit cliche now. We could probably come up with a short list of all the... You've got the original Avengers, they're in the helicarrier that's falling, and then Age of Ultron, they're in the city that's falling.
Yeah, the whole freaking city.
The whole city, yeah. You've got how many other things are falling? Yeah.
And Loki, a whole freaking planet's falling.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, just enough with the falling stuff. My major nitpick was the whole olfactory nerve severing thing.
What are you going to do?
Sever the nerve.
She broke her nose, which doesn't necessarily sever your olfactory nerve. And as far as I know, that isn't really how pheromones work anyway. But anyway, it is what it is.
There's no blood like 3 scenes later after she refixes her nose.
Yeah.
No swelling, teary eyes, or anything like that.
They could have come up with a better way to do that. So, but
or
whatever.
Even something like she stuck something in her nose before she went into the office would have been better than the breaking her own nose on the table thing.
Right. So, yeah. That and the James Bond-esque impossible things with aviation gear.
This takes the cake for impossible things with aviation.
Yes.
How much energy do you think it would take to keep that city floating?
All of it.
I mean, I know it's realistic to the comic books. They did that in the comics, but still, that's a...
Yeah, the whole floating city thing.
I can set my brain to the side to a certain extent, but I just can't quite buy the... And then they did it in Captain America as well. They had the helicarriers, and I just thought...
which were also falling.
Yeah, that's just the dumbest thing ever. That's not going to fly. I'm sorry. I don't have to be...
Well, yeah, you have to suspend disbelief.
You need, like, 8 nuclear reactors and, like, way more engines.
Well, they used, like, Tony Stark's tech or whatever.
Oh, yeah. They use magical sci-fi, comic booky logic. But that's okay. I don't mind that too much.
Which, whatever.
Snap to the base plate and make sure you...
But I thought that it was good for another reason, and that is I genuinely like a spy movie.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
And there's not a lot of spy movies, believe it or not. We get the James Bond movies, we get the Mission Impossible movies, but there's not a whole lot of spy thrillers anymore.
The Mission Impossible ones are actually possible.
Mission Improbable.
Mission Impossible. Yeah, Mission Improbable. Mission more or less unlikely. Mission, you know it's going to get done by the end of the film.
Yeah. But anyway, I like a spy movie, and I like that they actually had Scarlett Johansson watching a James Bond movie. It's kind of a wink to the audience that, yes, we understand that this is a James Bond knockoff.
Yes.
And to a certain extent.
Yes. Which
They
is
even-
perfectly fine.
They even had a Bond villain like, I'm explaining the plot to you in my European accent, you know.
Well, that works out. Which I think he does the exact same thing at the end, doesn't he? The Dracoff or whatever. I liked that it was a throwback all the way back to 2012, because Loki was talking about, you know, your ledger is dripping with red, Dracoff's daughter, and back then I thought he was calling her Dracoff's daughter, like he's, you know, like Dracoff was her father or whatever, and then later on you find out in Endgame, her father was called something else.
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, well, whatever.
That's my biggest problem with the movie, is I think the worst thing about this movie, you're going to hate me for saying this, the worst thing about this movie is that it was a Marvel movie. If it was its own isolated story, Black Widow, let's just call her like red-haired spy lady.
Red Sonja.
Yes, let's call her Red Sonja for no reason. If you started off the movie like, oh, spies living in America.
You have to be willing to do anything to protect yourself.
The Americans.
She realizes who she is, she becomes an assassin, defects to the other side, action ensues. If you like strip the Marvel-y stuff out of it, it's a pretty good spy movie. But with the Marvel stuff, I can't keep track of this shit anymore. I'm just... It's like when they had Captain Soviet Union, I'm like, am I supposed to remember him, or is this a new character? I honestly don't know if he's been in Marvel before. I can't remember.
Well, they kind of throw.
I feel like I need a little checklist to remember her. I'm not a dumb person sometimes.
Right.
I just can't remember all this stuff anymore.
Right. You can do it. What I thought was really interesting, and this goes back. I think they threw an Easter egg in there because when he's in the prison, he's like, I met Captain America back in 1980s. I think he did. And the guy says, well, he was still frozen. Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
One version of him was frozen, but one version of him was not.
I didn't pick up on that. You're right. That's really cool.
And back in the 1980s, so Captain America, I think as far as the more or less canon, I think he was born in like 1916.
Well, he was
Something like
he was
that.
of fighting age during the Second World War, which would have been 1941 for the United States.
Okay, so he would have been born. So let's
1920 something.
So let's just say he was 20 in 1945 or whatever, right? So he was basically born in, like, say, 1925. So if you go 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85. In 1985, you add an extra 60 years, so he would have been 75 years old.
But if you had the super soldier thing, maybe,
because he was like 120 years old or whatever at the end of Endgame. Like, he was like super old, but because he's the super soldier, he didn't really age the same kind of thing. Obviously, he outlived his wife. No, I don't think I'll tell you about that. But yeah, I think that the Red Guardian really did make Captain America, and there might be a story there. They might have a little tie in there somewhere.
It might be like 7 movies from now. They might mention that.
Might be 7, yeah.
And I get that that's one of the fun aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm probably a weird Marvel fan. I'm not one of the Marvel fans who they just go to the movie, whatever, to the movie, and that's the end of that. They don't think about it again. And I'm also not like super ultra mega fan where I know every little nitpick detail. I'm sort of in between where I've seen all of them, but I'm not enough where I remember all of it. I feel like I just need to go one step further into the I just don't have the energy.
Yeah.
There's too much not enough hours in the day.
It's all true.
Basically, the entire movie, in a nutshell, was
Help! I'm in a nutshell! How did I get into this nutshell?
just a chess piece moving from one square to another, getting, Infinity War set up. So a little bit, their hands were kind of tied with how much can they really do. And like any other movie that's a prequel, because this is ultimately it's a sequel to Civil War.
It's like a midquel.
A midquel. It's
We invented a new word, but that's
it's a midquel. It's you heard it here first, folks.
And that's our list of prequel sequels. And
there you go.
The midquel.
Yeah, because it's a sequel to Civil War and it's a prequel to Infinity War. It's basically the Treaty of Versailles in between the two wars.
That's actually one of the benefits this movie had.
The Treaty of Versailles?
No. The fact that it's restrained. It has to be confined into a space. And they have to limit themselves. They can't just blow up the universe and create all kinds of chaos. They have to, follow the rules. And it actually forces them to tell a creative story. It forces them to just do more character stuff.
Yeah.
And the character stuff is my favorite part of the movie. And the constraints make them do more of that. And that's probably why I liked it as much as I did.
Yeah. And she had some serious character development between the movies that you didn't really get to see. Because she was, like, it was kind of a fleshed out character somewhat. But unfortunately, a lot of what was making her an interesting character was her kind of love affair that was starting with the Hulk or whatever, and then that got kind of dashed. And really, if you're going to write a good, strong female character, the basis of her story shouldn't be the love she feels for a guy, right? It should be her own power. And that really... She was a powerful person, but there was never really any story behind where she got it. A little bit of the Red Room, when they kind of flashed back on that. But it showed some of the turmoil she went through, but it didn't really explain how she got to where she is either. So we kind of needed to know a little bit more of that to complete her story. So it was a good puzzle piece to go in between. I thought it was good. I was good doing that.
Can we talk a little bit about the secondary villain of Cobra Commander?
Taskmaster?
I felt that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. I know that there's some comic book people that really wanted Taskmaster to be more than it was. Kind of like there were some comic book people that were upset that the Mandarin wasn't really the Mandarin. But I'm not a Marvel comic books person, so I have no idea what any of that is. All I know is that the first, and maybe that's because in the theater they had a trailer for G.I. Joe Snake Eyes.
God, yeah.
But as soon as that villain came up, I started chuckling to myself, thinking, "Hey, it's Cobra Commander."
Right, exactly, yeah.
And
At least it's not Serpentor.
yeah.
This I command!
And maybe I've seen too many movies, but the second they showed that she was responsible for blowing up dude's daughter,
Yep.
I'm like, oh, that's who's
Yep.
in the suit.
That's who's in the suit. Yep.
I was exactly not at all surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's... I've said this before. I came into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as precisely that. I was not really heavily into the comics. So I don't really have that pretense of who Taskmaster should be. But even said, Taskmaster reminded me actually a lot of Captain Phasma from the Star Wars sequels. Just a big kind of waste of opportunity. The big difference being Captain Phasma
Had dialogue?
had dialogue, but also, died in such a stupid way. Here she's basically devoted her whole life to the arts martial, and she gets beaten by Finn, who didn't. So it doesn't make sense that she would lose, especially in such spectacular fashion. But anyway, at least Taskmaster's still alive and probably working for this alternate agency, and that's probably where a lot of these Black Widows are going. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the next thing to talk about is...
Like the post-credit scene?
Yeah, so Valentina shows up, a.k.a. Elaine. Get out of here! And talks to Black Widow's sister, whose name I've forgotten for the moment.
It's Black Widow's sister.
Yeah, I think that's her name, yeah. Junior. Black Widow Junior. And...
Is she going to be known as Black Widow now that the Black Widow Scarlett Johansson character died? Is it going to be like a legacy character, like Captain America is now Sam?
Yeah, yeah. Or like, the Black Panther, right? It was one Black Panther, and then went to the next one, and it's been down for generations.
Or if you go into DC, how many Green Lanterns have there been? I mean, are they going to do that with her?
At least 8.
Yeah.
So Valentina, whatever, Elaine was from, she shows up in the end credit scene of Falcon and Winter Soldier Missed the Point, which, by the way, the point was not whether or not Sam was worthy of the shield. It was the new Captain America worthy to throw Mjolnir. Mjolnir! That is the point, and they missed it. But anyway...
Wasn't the hammer destroyed by that point?
Well, but it's not about the hammer itself. It's about being worthy. Captain America was worthy to wield Mjolnir, which there's only 2 living beings.
Steve Rogers nonchalantly picked it up.
Well, not so nonchalant. Like in Age of Ultron, he kind of moves it a little bit. You see Thor's like he's a little bit shocked that he can move it that far, and then in the end, he's like, I knew it.
Come on, Cap.
But that you have to have a certain level of purity of heart, purity of whatever to wield Mjolnir. Mjolnir! So that is what makes Captain America. It's not really about the shield. But anyway, so I think they kind of missed the point.
So Captain America
But I
is
digress.
designed by his relation to a Norse god.
No. It is Captain America is worthy to wield the hammer. It's all about his worthiness to be Captain America.
So he's a Werther's original.
He's a maybe. Yo.
He's so sweet.
Thanks, Grandpa. But anyway, so Valentina, so she's making her own collection, and I don't remember what the name, but there's like basically an anti-Avengers. There's U.S. Agent is one of them. I think Black Widow's little sister. Taskmaster is going to be one of them. I think a lot of the other Black Widows, which may, they may start naming some of them individually or whatever. But there's going to be an entire anti-Avengers superhero group out there.
Do you think we're going to get that in the Hawkeye TV show?
Yes, I do believe so, because their first target's going to be Hawkeye. They kind of point that out. And I think, sorry, Jeremy Renner, but I think you're done.
You're going to kill him?
I think they're going to kill him. I think they're going to kill him off because basically it's the next generation, and I don't think he's going to be in any more movies. It's going to be.
Is there anybody?
Hawkeye's a title.
Is there any Marvel fan whose favorite character is Hawkeye, other than the actor who plays Hawkeye?
Jeremy Renner. I like Jeremy Renner in general. He's a pretty cool guy. But no, he's kind of a side. He's plucky comic relief. He's, the older I get, the more I identify with him. He grunts when he gets up to do his martial arts. Like he's really beat up in Endgame there, and he's like, "Oh, I know you," and he's just like, "Well, I'm gonna give this thing away," because he's an old beat up man. I identify with that. But
do you think the space god, the god from space, needs an ibuprofen after a fight?
Right, exactly.
That was one of the best lines in the movie.
That was one of the best lines. Yeah, but that was a cool way of explaining too. Like, well, why hasn't he come after me before?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they identified there's a potential gaping plot hole, and they just fill it up. Like, well, yeah, because one of the big ones will come after him then, because it's inherent in the name Avengers. They'll avenge you.
By Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Warvan, I shall avenge you.
So yeah, I mean, and that shows a smart villain. Like, in the end, he of course had his villain exposition, and in the end, he lost because he was overconfident. All the classic villain tropes. That,
He was a James Bond villain.
He was a James Bond villain.
There's no other way to describe him.
Right, but he was smart enough. We could probably list, and maybe that's a future show. But if you think about like True Lies, the terrorists would have got away with what they did if they hadn't kidnapped Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter. So many movies, if the villains had just been a little bit smarter, they would have got away with stuff.
I have a gun in my room. Let's shoot them together. It'll be fun, Dad.
Exactly. No, we're going to put him in an unnecessarily slow-moving... we're going to put him in an easily escapable situation involving an overly elaborate and exotic death. Right. So, yeah, and that's kind of what he did. But he was smart enough not to mess with Black Widow because she's an Avenger. And that made sense. His motivation was cool. He decided to stay in the shadows and not mess with her.
Train his little assassin army and
Yeah.
try to get as much power as possible.
Yeah.
Logical, evil guy's thing to do.
And as long as she thought he was dead, he was safe, and everything was good. And it just happened to be that she found out otherwise. But
not
that
quite
made
dead
sense. Not quite dead. Well, he could still be alive. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see Taskmaster again. I think that's where this whole line of questioning came from. And I think the villains that have motivation against the Avengers, other than just I am evil and you are good, therefore I must fight you.
Because good is dumb.
Exactly. Like those. So she's kind of programmed. She's a little bit Winter Soldiery. Who knows how she's going to end up being continue to be a villain, but she is going to be the most, I don't know if believable is the word, but basically she's mostly robot. So if you program her to hate the Avengers, she'll hate the Avengers, and off she goes. So.
Yeah, I give it a solid, like a half-hearted, 75%. Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
I still say that Doctor Strange, I don't know what it is about Doctor Strange. Maybe just Benedict Cumberbatch is just so
Of
awesome.
all the Cumberbatches, he's the best.
But no, I'm really excited about Multiverse of Madness. Well, how many movies are there between now and that?
So between now and then, Black Widow just came out on 7/9. So Shang-Chi comes out on 9/3.
I know zero things about that property.
You did mention the Mandalorian. Yes, the Mandalorian is now part of the Mandarin.
And the Mandalorian is part of the MCU because Star Wars is part of the MCU because it was on Captain America's checklist.
Ah, yes.
Therefore, Disney Plus is in the MCU. Therefore, the MCU is in the MCU.
Off going cross-eyed. Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's weird. Okay, anyway, so yeah. You ever see that old movie? With the giant walker thingies?
So all the next villain needs to do is get the VHS copy and watch what's going to happen.
What time is it now? It's now. No.
They just have to get Disney Plus pulled up and watch the next show.
This is really creepy.
Well, it comes after Shang-Chi.
Okay, well, let's talk about Shang-Chi, though. So, Shang-Chi, you mentioned the Mandarin. So, that was a fake Mandarin. The real Mandarin is the Master of the Ten Rings, and he is going to be, I believe, in Shang-Chi. So,
Did the elves get like 3? The men got like 7? Or that?
no, 9 were gifted to men, who above all else desired power, and they became the Ring Wraiths. Yeah.
But this is only 10, so this is kind of a
10.
knockoff.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, it's 10, yeah, exactly.
Only 10 rings.
So then the Eternals comes out 11/5. I don't know what the hell's going to be in that one. But then you start getting into the multiverse-y ones. So I think... So Black Widow didn't involve the multiverse. Shang-Chi probably won't, although there might be a little bit of setup in there. Eternals, I'm not really sure. I have no idea what to expect about the Eternals, honestly. Spider-Man No Way Home, that's going to be multiverse-y. And then the actual Multiverse of Madness is 3/25 of 22. So we have about 9 months to set up stuff between now and then. But yeah, it's back to back, and then Thor, and then Black Panther. So the Thor: Love and Thunder, and then Black Panther, Wakanda Forever are I don't think they're going to be multiverse-y. Mm-hmm. So I think everything's going to be resolved in Multiverse of Madness. I think it's going to be like the Avengers Endgame of that particular setup.
I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I am going to rewatch all of the MCU in order, and I'll get back to you. You can do it! Anyway, I'm exhausted about talking about Black Widow. It was one of the okayest Marvel movies I've ever seen, and I would watch it again.
Yes.